You ever have one of those days where something feels off but you can't quite put your finger on it? That was me. I woke up with that low hum of unease in my chest. Nothing specific, just a weight I couldn't shake. I chalked it up to the usual, stress from work, not sleeping enough, maybe too much caffeine. But now I realize it was something deeper. Something inside me already knew. I was sitting at the kitchen table, finishing up an email when the notification appeared in the top corner of my MacBook screen. A message syncing from her Apple ID. She must have forgotten to sign out after borrowing it last week to print out boarding passes or some contract. Honestly, I can't even remember. The message was short. Just one sentence. Waiting by the elevator, winking face. Sent from someone saved as Travis client. I stared at it. Read it twice. 3 times. Waiting by the elevator. What the hell was that supposed to mean? The winking emoji, that casual, cocky little curve hit me like a slap. I didn't know any Travis. And more importantly, I knew her clients. She talked about them all the time. Salespeople, design consultants, the occasional tech rep, no Travis. Something in me froze. That same way you freeze when your car hydroplanes for just a second, everything slows down, your body tightens, and your brain scrambles to stay calm while your instincts scream. A minute later, she walked into the room completely unaware of what I had just seen. She was dressed to the nines, tight navy blue dress, the one she only pulled out for big events. Her perfume hit me before she even spoke. Something floral, expensive, and not the usual one she wore to the office. Her makeup was more dramatic than normal too, like she had tried on a few different looks before settling on this one. I didn't say anything right away. Just turned the laptop so she could see the message. For a split second, she stopped. Blinked. Her eyes darted to mine, and I caught it. That flicker of fear. Not confusion. Not surprise. Fear. But it was gone just as fast. She straightened up, smoothing her dress like nothing was out of the ordinary. Oh, she said casually, like we were discussing grocery lists. That's Travis. One of our newer clients. I mentioned him, remember? I didn't want to bore you with the details. It's his birthday and we're just doing a little dinner. Very chill. A bunch of people from work will be there. I watched her carefully. The way she said a bunch of people without naming names. The way her voice didn't go up at the end of the sentence, the way it usually did when she was being sincere. She didn't blink enough. She didn't fidget the way she usually did when she was just nervous. And still, I said nothing. She sighed, annoyed. Like I was being difficult. If you're going to interrogate me again, not tonight, okay? I hadn't even opened my mouth. But I knew exactly what she meant. A few weeks earlier, she'd come home later than usual. Said it was drinks with coworkers. I'd asked a few too many questions. Where'd you go? Who was there? You didn't mention a happy hour. She told me I was being controlling. That I needed to trust her. That adults don't need permission for everything. So I didn't say much this time. Just sat back, watching her fasten the tiny clasp on the back of her necklace. A gift from me, by the way, anniversary 3 years ago. Then I said it. Softly. Almost to myself. Stay. Please. Just stay tonight. It wasn't a demand. It wasn't dramatic. I wasn't yelling or accusing her. I just asked. I asked her to stay. For one night. One night to ease the knot in my gut. One night to put the winking Travis on hold. One night to show me that she still chose us. She paused. For half a second. Looked at me, then down at her heels. Adjusted her earrings. I've earned one evening out, she said finally. Her voice softened, but not in a warm way, in a way that said she was done explaining herself. We're adults. Don't be so jealous. Then she grabbed her clutch, turned, and walked out the door. I sat there completely still. My coffee had gone cold. I could hear the echo of her heels on the stairs, then the ding of the elevator. I didn't even know if she took an Uber or if Travis picked her up. I never even got to finish the sentence forming in my mouth. Something like, just talk to me. Tell me what's going on. But it didn't matter. She was already gone. And something in me cracked. Not in an explosive way. Not a dramatic shatter. Just a quiet, internal break. Like when a pipe starts leaking behind the wall, not enough to flood the house yet, but you know it's going to get worse. You know the damage is already happening. I sat there for maybe an hour. I don't even remember what I looked at. The table. The floor. My own hands. Trying to remember when I stopped recognizing the woman I married. It's funny. People think the moment you catch someone cheating is loud. Messy. Screaming and broken plates and thrown phones. But for me, it was quiet. Just a message on a screen and a dress that wasn't meant for me. She told me not to be jealous. But that wasn't it. I wasn't jealous. I was heartbroken. I was scared. Because I knew somewhere deep in my bones I had already lost her. And she wasn't even pretending to fight it anymore. After the door closed behind her, the silence in the apartment was unbearable. I sat there for a while, trying to convince myself that I was overreacting. That maybe it really was just a work dinner. That maybe Travis was a client. That the message didn't mean anything. But the more I tried to rationalize it, the more the truth started slipping through the cracks in my denial. And once the dam broke, everything I had ignored started pouring out. Like how she started working late almost every other week. Before, she used to hate overtime. She'd come home ranting about inefficient meetings, bosses who couldn't plan ahead, clients who moved deadlines. But suddenly, she was staying later and not complaining about it. That should have been my first clue. But I brushed it off. Told myself she was just being more committed. Driven. I wanted to believe that. Then there was her phone. Always face down on the table. Always silent. She used to scroll Instagram while we cooked dinner together, send me memes while I was in the next room, take pictures of our dog doing stupid things. Then, almost overnight, it was like her phone became a vault. She turned off message previews. Set up Face ID. I once reached to hand her the phone during a call. It had buzzed on the passenger seat while we were driving, and she grabbed it so fast it startled me. Just a courier, she muttered, setting it down. But the panic in her voice, that wasn't about a delivery. Or the night we were watching Netflix and I glanced over to see her composing an Instagram message. Not just a quick LOL or thanks. She was typing slowly, deleting and retyping, checking the punctuation like it was a damn cover letter. I didn't recognize the name on the screen. She turned it off before I could get a second look. And I let it go. I let it all go. Because love makes you blind, but comfort makes you stupid. I wanted things to be normal. I wanted to believe that I was safe, that what we had couldn't be shaken. So I ignored the signs, like the new perfume she wore, something expensive and subtle, something I didn't even know she owned until I smelled it on her coat one morning. When I asked her about it, she smiled and said, "Oh, just trying something new." Trying something new. Yeah, that checks out. Even the way she looked at me started changing. Her voice was still sweet, polite even, but distant. Like someone talking to a barista or a coworker they used to be close with. She'd ask how my day was, but she never really listened. I'd tell her something funny from work and she'd smile, but not with her eyes. I don't even think she noticed she was doing it. She used to sit close to me on the couch, legs curled under her, shoulder pressed to mine. That stopped too. It was always one pillow between us now. Two, if she was feeling particularly cold. Still, I kept finding excuses. She's just tired. She's just stressed. We've been together a long time, maybe this is just how it goes. The honeymoon phase is over, right? Everyone says that. But I should have known better. I should have known when she started dressing differently. More heels, more tight skirts, more low backs. Not that I minded, she looked stunning, but it felt intentional. Like she was trying to impress someone. Just not me. I remember one afternoon, maybe a month before the Travis message, she came home glowing. Hair perfect. That same perfume trailing behind her like a signature. She walked in, humming to herself. And when I kissed her cheek, she flinched just a little. Enough for me to notice. Enough for me to wonder. And yet I said nothing. I told myself not to be paranoid. That accusing her without proof would make me the bad guy. That it was better to be patient. Better to trust. But trust only works when both people want it to. The morning after the Travis message, I woke up early. She wasn't home. Her side of the bed was untouched. I stared at the ceiling for a long time, my body numb, like my brain didn't know how to process her absence. I texted her, just a simple, "Are you okay?" And she didn't reply until nearly noon. "Yeah, just crashed at Maya's. Too tired to drive. Sorry, love you." I stared at that text for a while. Love you. Those two words felt fake now. Like a sticker slapped on a broken package. I thought about calling Maya. But I didn't want to be that guy, the one who checks up on his girlfriend like a cop. So instead, I just sat with it. The message. The silence. The absence. And the more I sat with it, the more the past few months started reshaping themselves in my memory. Like the weekend trip she canceled last minute because something came up at work. I remember sitting alone at the cabin we had rented, her idea, by the way, wondering why her team couldn't handle things without her for 48 hours. She texted me once that night. "Miss you." No photo. No call. Just words. And then 2 weeks later, she bought new lingerie. Claimed it was on sale, just something she picked up because it was cute. But she never wore it. Not once. I only saw it because the receipt was still in the bag. All these pieces. Floating. Waiting to be connected. And then, the biggest piece of all, when I asked her to stay, when I gave her the chance to choose me and she walked away without hesitation. That wasn't just about a dinner. That was a decision. That was someone who didn't fear losing what we had. I started to realize that the relationship I thought I was in, solid, honest, built on 7 years of memories and trust, had already ended. Quietly. In stages. I just hadn't noticed the funeral. 3 nights. That's how long it took for me to break. After she walked out that evening, after I asked her to stay and she didn't come home until the next afternoon. Said she crashed at Maya's again. Same excuse, slightly different words. I didn't push. I was done pushing. She walked in like nothing had happened, poured herself coffee, and asked if I wanted eggs. I said no. She asked how I slept. I said fine. And we both pretended everything was normal. But inside me, something had started. A slow unraveling. The rope I'd been holding onto, made of hope, trust, memory, it had started to fray. Every hour she was away, it got thinner. Every deflection, every vague answer, every look that didn't meet mine was another tug at the cord. By the 3rd day, there was nothing left to hold. So I decided to find the truth. Not hints. Not vibes. Not red flags. Proof. It was Friday evening. Her late night, again. Supposedly there was some presentation prep with her team. She left the house in jeans and a blazer, but I saw the eyeliner. The lip gloss. That same perfume that was starting to feel like a stranger's scent in my home. I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed my keys. I didn't even have a plan. Just a direction. Her office was 20 minutes away. I didn't tell myself I'd confront her. I told myself I'd just confirm. Maybe see her car in the lot. Maybe watch her walk out with coworkers and prove to myself I was wrong. I parked across from the agency building she worked at. It was modern, lots of glass. I turned off the engine and sank low into the seat. My hands were sweating. My heart wouldn't slow down. I felt pathetic at first. Like I was starring in some discount version of a detective movie. Sitting in my car, watching shadows in a window, waiting for someone to shatter the last bit of denial I was clinging to. But then, around 7:10 p.m., I saw her. And everything stopped. She walked out the front doors, laughing. Not alone. Travis. I knew it was him. I didn't need a name tag. Tall, slick haircut, confident walk, expensive coat. He looked exactly like the kind of guy you bring up in therapy a year after your marriage ends. He had his hand on her lower back. Not in a coworker way. In a way that says, you're mine. For tonight. Maybe longer. She tilted her head toward him, laughing like she used to laugh with me. Not just amused, lit up. She touched his arm. He leaned closer. They looked like a couple in a rom-com walking into a 3rd-act date montage. Then they stopped by the edge of the parking lot. He said something. She smiled, brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. And then they kissed. Not fast. Not by accident. Not the kind of thing you can explain away later with, he surprised me. No. This was 2 people who knew exactly what they were doing. Her hands rested on his chest. His fingers brushed her cheek. When she pulled back, she looked at him the way she used to look at me back when things were new, when we were still choosing each other every day. That's when I looked away. Not because I couldn't handle it, but because there was nothing left to see. I didn't take a picture. Didn't hit record on my phone. Didn't get out of the car. I didn't need proof anymore. Not the kind I could hold. What I saw, what I felt, was enough. I closed my eyes and let the grief settle. Not the grief of losing her. That had already happened quietly over months. This was something else. It was the grief of realizing I wasn't wrong. That every gut feeling, every red flag, every sleepless night wasn't paranoia, it was instinct. My heart knew what my mind refused to accept. She had already left me. Emotionally. Physically. Secretly. I just hadn't caught up yet. They walked off down the street. I waited until they were gone, then started the car and drove home. The steering wheel felt like it was vibrating. My hands were clenched so hard I could barely feel them. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove in silence, listening to the sound of the tires on the road and the quiet echo of something inside me giving up. When I got home, the place felt colder. Not physically, just emptier. I sat in the living room for a while, staring at the framed photo of us on the wall. Taken 2 years ago in Big Sur. We were on a cliffside trail, arms wrapped around each other. Her head was on my shoulder. She looked happy. I looked like a man who had no idea what was coming. I wondered if she was ever going to tell me, if she planned to end it, or if she'd just keep lying until she was caught. Maybe she was waiting for the right time. Maybe she was hoping I'd be the one to leave, so she wouldn't have to be the villain. But now that I'd seen it, now that I knew, there was no version of reality where we came back from this. You don't return from betrayal like that. You can forgive mistakes. You can repair distance. But you can't unsee your partner kissing someone else in a parking lot after 3 days of lying to your face. I slept on the couch that night, didn't even turn on the TV, just laid there staring at the ceiling, listening to the clock tick and the fridge hum and the wind outside tapping against the window like it was trying to get in. When she finally came home the next morning, around 11 a.m., she was carrying a smoothie and wearing sunglasses. She smiled like everything was fine, like she had just come from yoga or a casual brunch. "Hey," she said, brushing a kiss toward my cheek. "Sorry, I should have texted. Maya's couch is awful." I looked at her, really looked. She didn't even notice that my eyes weren't smiling. She didn't notice that I didn't speak. She just kept going, talking about a coffee spill and some show Maya recommended like nothing was broken, like I hadn't seen her entire double life play out in front of me the night before. But I had, and I was done pretending. She came home late again. Not late like lost track of time late. Late like the sun was high, the neighbors were walking their dogs, and the world had already started turning without her. It was just afternoon. She stepped into the apartment with a cup of iced coffee and a paper bag, sunglasses on, dressed like she was coming back from errands. Not from him. And the thing that got me wasn't the lie. It was how normal she tried to make it all seem. "Hey," she said. Placing her coffee on the counter like this was just another Saturday morning. "I grabbed you a muffin blueberry, your favorite." I didn't even glance at it. Instead, I walked past her, quiet, calm, focused. She paused, watching me head down the hall. "Everything okay?" she asked, but there was a hesitation now, a tremor. I didn't answer. I opened the bedroom closet and pulled out the 2 suitcases we keep tucked under the winter coats. They were hers, leather-bound, olive green. A matching set I bought her for our anniversary trip to Montreal. Back when we used to make plans together. I laid them flat on the bed and unzipped them. That sound, the teeth of the zipper parting, cut through the silence like a blade. She followed me in, footsteps cautious. "What are you doing?" she asked, but her voice was smaller now. Not casual, not cocky. Still, I didn't speak. I opened her drawers carefully, methodically. T-shirts, sweaters, her worn-in socks with the tiny patterns she used to joke about collecting. One by one, I folded each item and placed it in the suitcase. Not rushed, not angry, like I was packing for someone else. Behind me, she stood frozen. "Seriously, Mark, what is this?" I looked at her then, just once, just enough for her to know it was real. "I'm not asking questions," I said quietly, "because I already saw the answer." She swallowed hard. Her eyes searched mine like maybe I was bluffing, like maybe she could talk her way through this one too. But I wasn't looking for confessions anymore. I wasn't looking for anything. "I don't understand," she said, and it sounded like a test. Plea disguised as confusion. I zipped the first suitcase shut and started the second. "Where are you going?" she asked. "I'm not going anywhere," I replied. "You are." Her mouth parted slightly, but no sound came out. "This isn't about kicking you out," I continued, turning back to fold her jacket. "It's about making space, because I can't breathe in this house anymore. Not with all the pretending." The silence that followed was heavier than yelling ever could have been. She sat on the edge of the bed, her coffee forgotten on the nightstand. Her hands were clenched together like she was holding something in. Maybe guilt, maybe fear, maybe just the urge to run. "You followed me?" she asked finally. I didn't blink. "I didn't need to follow you," I said. "I just happened to be where the truth stopped hiding." That line landed like a stone. She flinched, barely. A beat passed. "You saw me with him?" I nodded. "And you, what?" "Just watched." I didn't need a show, I said, closing the second suitcase. The ending was clear. She was quiet for a long time after that. I stood there, looking at the person I once loved more than anything. Her face still looked the same, familiar, soft, the face I used to wake up smiling beside. But now it was a mask. A memory. And it hurt in the strangest way, not like a knife, not like a burn, but like frostbite, slow, numb, and devastating once it sets in. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. I didn't answer. I thought I could fix it. That maybe I just needed time. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. No more lies, I said, my voice low. Not even the soft ones. She nodded, eyes glistening. But no tears fell. I brought the suitcases to the door. Set them down gently. If you need a day or two, fine, I said. I'm not trying to punish you. I just need the air back in my lungs. You're serious, she said, barely audible. Yeah, I nodded. I am. She stood there for a while, looking at the bags like they were foreign objects. Like they didn't belong to her, or maybe like they carried a version of herself she didn't recognize anymore. I didn't expect this from you, she said after a pause. What did you expect? She didn't answer. Maybe she expected a fight. Shouting. Demands. Maybe she thought I'd collapse under the weight of it all. Maybe she wanted me to scream so she could feel justified in saying, see? This is why I looked elsewhere. But all I gave her was silence and space. And somehow that hurt more. She walked to the window, stared out at the street like she was hoping for a sign. A car horn. A phone call. A rewind button. I don't even know where to go, she said. That's not my decision anymore. She turned toward me, finally crying now, but softly. The kind of crying that comes when you realize the performance is over and the audience isn't clapping. You were always good to me, she said. I know. I don't know why I did this. I do, I replied. Because I stopped being new. And he made you feel new again. She didn't deny it. Instead, she bent down, zipped her coat, and grabbed the handles of her suitcases. One in each hand like anchors. I don't hate you, she said, voice shaking. I don't hate you either, I told her. But I also don't recognize you. She stood there for a moment longer, then opened the door. The hallway was quiet. Just the distant hum of an elevator descending somewhere far below. Will I ever see you again? She asked, not turning back. Maybe, I said. But it won't be the same. Then she was gone. And the door closed behind her with a click that echoed louder than any fight we'd ever had. After she left with the suitcases, I expected the silence to feel clean. Final. Like the moment after a storm when everything is soaked but peaceful. It wasn't like that. She came back 2 days later. Knocked on the door like a guest. Said her name softly as if unsure whether she was still allowed to speak it here. I let her in. I didn't ask questions. She didn't offer stories. I just need a few days to sort things out, she said. I nodded. She moved into the guest room. Didn't ask. Didn't explain. Just walked down the hall with a bag slung over her shoulder and closed the door behind her. And that's how it began, this new kind of quiet war. No yelling, no slammed doors. Just two people orbiting the same space with completely different gravity. We lived like ghosts in a house full of things that used to mean something. The routines stayed the same. Almost cruelly so. In the mornings, I'd wake up to the sound of the coffee machine. 2 mugs out of habit. I'd come into the kitchen to find her sipping hers at the table, scrolling through her phone like this was normal. She'd ask, you want eggs? I'd shake my head. I'm good. Then we'd go our separate ways, me to the office, her to wherever she went now. I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. There's a strange kind of heartbreak that comes after the big moments. After the discovery. After the confrontation. When there's no more adrenaline, just maintenance. The emotional janitor work of trying to function around someone you used to love. At night, I wore headphones to bed. Not for music. Just for noise. The sound of nothing was too loud. I didn't want to hear her in the next room, turning pages, sighing, pacing, crying. Yes. She cried sometimes. I could hear her through the wall. Quietly. Like she didn't want me to know. But I never got up. I never knocked. Those weren't my tears anymore. The first week passed like a blur. Work emails. Grocery lists. Dishes. She folded laundry for both of us without thinking. I put her favorite cereal in the cart by accident. Every move was a reminder that we were still tethered to old habits even as the bond itself had snapped. Once she asked if I wanted to watch a movie together. Like it was something people did while waiting to file for divorce. I said no. She nodded and didn't ask again. I kept my side of the closet, but her side stayed mostly empty. A few hangers with forgotten blouses. An old coat. Her winter boots tucked neatly under the rack. It felt like a museum exhibit. Here lies the remnants of a life once shared. One night, I found her asleep on the couch with a blanket half covering her, TV still on. A documentary about oceans playing to no one. Her mouth was slightly open. Her mascara had smudged. She looked like a stranger wearing my wife's face. I didn't wake her. I turned off the TV, adjusted the blanket, and walked away. I don't know why I did that. Maybe out of muscle memory. Maybe because part of me still hadn't caught up with the rest. There were moments that tried to pull us back to normal. Like when she laughed at something stupid on TV and instinctively turned to me, forgetting we weren't those people anymore. Or when she passed me a grocery bag and our fingers touched and we both flinched like the contact was illegal now. Once she left a post-it on the bathroom mirror. Just 4 words. You didn't deserve this. It sat there for days. I didn't respond. Not verbally. But one morning I took it down. She noticed. She didn't ask why. We never talked about him. Not once. Not even in code. No apologies. No explanations. The air around it was thick, but we both walked through it like fog we couldn't acknowledge. I found myself resenting how easy it had become for her to exist in this limbo. Like she had compartmentalized it all, her actions, my silence, this new routine of not speaking that we somehow made functional. I started staying late at work. Said it was meetings. It wasn't. I just sat in the break room reading articles I didn't care about. Sometimes I drove to nowhere and sat in my car with the engine off. Just to delay going home. Because home didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a hotel room with shared Wi-Fi and bad lighting. The hardest part? I didn't hate her. I wish I did. It would have made it easier. Simpler. But what I felt was worse, something hollow. I didn't want to punish her. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted space. Air. A reset button I knew didn't exist. Some nights, I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was the fool for letting her stay. For not kicking her out the second I saw the kiss. But then I'd remember that I never wanted to be the guy who screamed. Who threw clothes onto the lawn. Who let his pain turn into theater. I just wanted peace. Even if that meant living beside someone who had already left me emotionally, even if her body was still here. Eventually, even the dog started noticing. She used to snuggle beside her on the couch. Now she lingered in doorways, looking between us like she didn't know who to sit with. I felt like I owed the dog an apology. It was the 10th night when I realized something important. She wasn't going to leave unless I told her to. And I wasn't going to heal until I did. This limbo, this almost separation, wasn't mercy. It was cruelty disc.